go. Good evening. I'd like to call the Keizer City Council to order in regular session. It is Monday, June 4th, 2018, and ask our city recorder to please call roll.
Councilor Ryan? Here. Councilor Freeman? Here. Councilor Reed?
Here.
Mayor Clark?
Here.
Council President Parsons?
Here.
Councilor Anderson?
Councilor Anderson is excused.
And Councilor Herrera?
Here.
All right, I would like to invite up Mr. Jared Kohler, if you want to come up to the table here, and he will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you all please stand? Jared, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes. I am Jared Kohler.
What grade are you in, Jared?
I started sixth grade, and after summer break, I'm going to be moving into 7th grade.
Fantastic. What school are you in?
Oh, Whitaker Middle School.
Fabulous. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Jared will lead us off.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jared. All right, this evening, with the council's permission, I'd like to make a couple of changes. Normally, we do other business and committee reports at the end of the meeting, but we've had some pretty significant events over the weekend, so I wanted to have that conversation first off. And City Manager, if we could get an update on where we are with the water situation and sharing with our neighbors in Salem.
That'd be great, and I'm going to turn it over to Bill because he runs that group of folk.
Thank you, Chris. Madam Mayor, Council, on Friday or Saturday, May 26th, about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we started selling water to the City of Salem on their request. What that entails is there's a booster pump station at our Cherry Avenue site that pumps water from our system into Salem's system. My understanding at that time was Salem was having some problems producing enough water for their city, and so they called us for it's an emergency backup supply. That connection is able to provide about 3 million gallons of water per day to the City of Salem, as long as Keizer has available capacity, which we had plenty of capacity. That system ran until Friday the 1st of June, till about 10 o'clock in the morning, when Salem notified us they no longer needed that supply, and so we discontinued that supply. During last week, end of last week, when Salem issued their notice and to their citizens and everybody in the region for that matter, our staff worked with Marion County Emergency Management and other agencies in the region to procure a trailer that provides drinking water, a distribution system to provide drinking water, a place for people to fill up jugs, bottles, whatever they had. That was set up at our skate park here on Rickman Road. And then Thursday afternoon, we were also asked to provide a secondary place for water trucks to fill up. We also had a water fill station on Rickman Road that's there all the time anyway for normal operation, for contractors and fire department, whoever needs bulk water to fill their trucks. We set up a secondary site on Bailey Road right next to the police department parking lot that had the capacity to fill 3 trucks at a time. That was put together and set up probably by about 4 o'clock Thursday afternoon. I was out of town Friday, but my understanding, talking with staff this morning, that was used until sometime Saturday, and then we were notified it was no longer needed, and it was taken down. So Keizer Water's been fine all along and will continue to be as far as I know. So.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you, Chris, Bill, and all of your staff for being very quick and efficient in getting water supplies available to our neighbors in Salem. I also want to give a big shout out to many of the members of our community and businesses that got together and made sure that water was made available to friends and neighbors. People posted on Facebook. And most importantly, and this is something I encouraged everybody to do, was to please communicate. Get information about where water sites were to the city, post it on our Facebook, and make sure we were coordinating. Because what we didn't need was some people going off and doing their own thing without letting other people know. So in addition to providing water, you all communicated, and we really appreciate it. The Chamber of Commerce was very helpful in helping get out the word about water stations at businesses throughout our community. And residents in our community also made their homes, their gardens, and their businesses available for people to come and get water. And I got to tell you, as I started getting phone calls and emails of thanks from people in Salem, I couldn't be prouder to be part of a community than I am right now, of the people and being part of the city of Keizer. We made a lot of friends, we did the right thing, and I am so thankful that this is where I live and you all are my neighbors, because I know if I got a problem, you're going to be there. I wanted to read a brief email from Steve Powers. He's the city manager of Salem, and the subject was a big thank you. So thank you for Keizer's tremendously prompt and incredibly helpful response to the water advisory. I am grateful that we are neighbors. I got another text from a Keizer resident, or Salem resident, and said it was darn sisterly and a grand gesture to reach out to Salem during their water crisis. That goes to we were talking about how, well, should I address you as Madam Mayor or something like that? So no, we're at church, we're sisters. But she said, all kidding aside, it makes a person proud to have associations with Keizer. Thank you for the effort. And it's signed Jill Hagan. I got another phone call from a Salem resident who found my number on our website and wanted to thank the people of Keizer for sharing water and making sure that people were taken care of, and that we shared. There were some businesses that were bad players and tried to gouge people. They have been publicly shamed, which I'm glad. And more importantly, the people who have done the right thing have gotten the thanks and recognition that I believe they deserve. Does anybody else have any comments on how things went this weekend with the water? Bill, I'll let you, and then I'll come to you, Councilor Herrera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to recognize the Keizer CERT group for their stepping up and assisting. They manned the water station at the skate park the whole time it was up and running, 24 hours a day. So I just want to extend my thanks to them, because they put a lot of time and effort into that and were mobilized in no time to be able to do that. So thank you very much.
Outstanding. Councilor Herrera.
He just stole my thunder on CERT. But I also, now that I come to Nigel over at the, he was one of the first guys to go out there and on social media, and I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
So our business did step up, and they were led by Nigel over at the
Willamette Valley Appliance.
Willamette Valley Appliance. So I'm really grateful. Thank you, Bill.
Anybody else? All right, well, we're glad that we could help, and we're glad that we could be good neighbors, and we're thankful now that their water situation seems to be better under control. Over the weekend, we had another incident that some of you may have heard about, and that was over on Rafael. And City Manager, do you want to have the chief give us a brief update on what happened and where we are now?
Chief, would you give us a brief update on what happened and where we are now?
So Saturday, there were some people target practicing across the river on the same property evidently that we've dealt with in the past. And they fired, I'm sure unintentionally, a number of rounds into Keizer, at least one of which went into a residence and not far from one of the homeowners. We called Polk County. They ended up making 4 arrests. That's currently in the justice system. I'm not sure who's going to prosecute that. Well, actually, I'm sure Polk County is going to prosecute that. What else do you want to know?
So in terms of how we responded, and then what is anything that we can do in that regard, or is this going to, whether from here?
Yeah, well, we were the initial responders on this side of the river. Polk County responded on that side of the river as far as what we can do. As far as law enforcement is concerned, we can only do something when something bad has happened. We've done what we can preemptively. I know you're having a conversation, or I say you, the council, are having a conversation with Polk County commissioners, and it'll be interesting to see how that's resolved.
Well, and I did call Commissioner Pope. He's one whose phone number I had handy. Since we do quite a bit of work together on transportation, I let him know what happened and that I was going to be looking to them to look into what they can do on their side of the river. I know this is private property, but this is not the expected use of that property, and they need to have some conversations about what is happening on that property that is causing danger to people on our side of the river. That's not acceptable, and I let them know in no uncertain terms. But I will be continuing that conversation with the commissioners, because I see them on a pretty regular basis. But as far as the homeowner, they have recourse civilly, and if they choose to pursue that, then they have those options, but that is a private matter, as I understand it, and their choice to pursue. Is that correct?
Well, that would be entirely civil. I think we're all looking for a little leverage to make a substantial change, and that's probably where the leverage is.
I'm sure their insurance is going to love this one. All right, but I want people to know that this had happened, and the parts that we can do in terms of law enforcement have been carried out effectively. I'm very happy to hear about the arrests, and that conversations with Polk County leadership on, what they can do, but I'm sure between the homeowner and the gravel quarry owner, those conversations, I'm sure, will be very interesting. All right, any questions at this point? All right, thank you very much. All sorts of snarky things come to mind, but I will keep them to myself. That's all I have under kind of special reports. No, let's hit the one more, and that was the orchard. It's done, and it's beautiful. It's smoothed out. It's clean. Do you want to just give us how that went with the burning the trees? Because it looks fabulous, and I live in that neighborhood, and a little bit of smoke one day, and that was about it.
Yeah, it went about as good as expected, as good as it could have gone. Couple things I think really helped that. One, the way the piles were created in the first place. The folks who were doing it set them loosely instead of packing things down, and did it on a favorable day. Did it in stages, so they weren't having everything burn at once. And I couldn't have gone any better. I agree with you. I think it was Friday night. There was a pretty good smoke smell in my neighborhood. By Saturday morning, it was gone. I even drove out there Friday evening because I was a little concerned that there was more smoke and the smell. Well, there wasn't a lot of smoke. I think where I live, my perception was the wind carried it. It was heavier, so it settled in my neighborhood and smelled strong. My neighbors made a couple comments but didn't really complain. But there wasn't any concern of it. And then by Saturday morning, it was all over with, and the volunteers very diligently stayed with it all weekend long and had the piles consolidated when it was the right time and basically burned everything up. So thank you to their hard work and efforts, and it couldn't have gone any better in my opinion.
All right, thank you very much. I think Mark Collier is among them, Matt Lawyer, I'm trying to remember.
Mark Collier, Gary Whalen, John Blake, Dan Dietz, Matt Lawyer. Who else did I see out there the couple times I was out there?
Okay, yeah.
There were some others. One, Tom Tomzak
yeah.
called me. Interestingly enough, one of those phone calls that started, and you kind of cringe at the beginning of the call because he wanted to talk about burning the piles. And my first thought was, this is a complaint. No, I want to help. And I want to help. This is what I did. I worked for BLM, and this is what I did, and I want to go help those guys. So I told him, just go out to the park, find Mark Collier, and he'll direct you where to go. So I'm sure there were others involved out there. I didn't see them, but the names that I just mentioned are the ones that I saw out there. So.
All right, thank you. A good outcome. I know there's a lot of concern. Councilor Freeman.
I'm almost afraid to touch this. I would just echo, I saw Mark Collier, both, and Dan Dietz, and walking kind of gingerly, so I know they put in a lot of hard work, so just appreciating that. And I did talk to some of the neighbors that live really close to the park, and really, I think they were pleasantly surprised at how well the burn went, and really nothing around their house. And I live one street over from Bill, and noticed the smell Friday night too. Totally forgot they burned trees, and my husband goes, "Oh, that's just the remnants of the trees. It's no big deal," And it really wasn't that bad. And really, I thought it was my neighbor next door. So It wasn't, but it was great. So again, just thank you to everyone, and for everyone that hard work, their bodies reflected it afterwards, so.
Volunteers rock it again. All right, thank you so much. All right, let's get back into the agenda then. I wanted to make sure we had those discussions right up front tonight. Committee reports, there's nobody here from a committee to give reports, so we will do our liaison reports at the end. Public testimony, this time is provided for citizens to address the council on any matters other than those on the agenda scheduled for a public hearing. We have 6 public hearings tonight, most of them related to the budget and the Eurostop liquor license application. So is there anybody who would like to address the council during public testimony? Do you have anybody signed up? Are you signed up? Okay. I was just waiting to Tracy. Oh, okay, just waiting. All right. Then we will go ahead and get into, are we good, Tracy, to go into public hearings? Let's go into the public hearings and start with the first one, which is the Eurostop liquor license application. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On May 10th, 2018, the city received an application for a new liquor license for Eurostop, which is located at 3860 River Road North, number 101 in Keizer. This is the former site of Birdie's Bistro. The application is for a limited on-premises license. As required by Keizer ordinance, a public hearing was scheduled. Notice was published and mailed to all property owners within 200 feet of the proposed establishment. The Keizer Police Department reports a clear background check on the applicant and does not have any reason to recommend denial for the application. In addition, the Keizer Community Development Department finds the location of the establishment to be properly zoned and had no additional comments. It is recommended the public hearing be open to allow testimony from the applicant or other interested individuals, and upon completion, the hearing be closed. It is further recommended the City Council recommend approval of the application for Eurostop under the guidelines as established by ORS 471.166 and the ordinances of the City of Keizer. Recommendation will then be forwarded to the Oregon Liquor Control Commission. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I'd like to open public hearing. And I don't have anybody signed up for testimony. Is there anybody who would like to speak to this issue? Were there any questions on the staff report? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Council President Parsons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Keizer City Council recommend approval of the liquor license application for, how do you say that? Eurostop under the guidelines as established by ORS 471.166 and the ordinance of the City of Keizer, and then forward that recommendation to the Oregon Liquor Control Commission for final approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council recommend approval of the application for the Eurostop under the guidelines as established by ORS 471.166 and the ordinances of the City of Keizer, and forward this recommendation for approval to the Oregon Liquor Control Commission for final approval. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously, one absent, Councilor Anderson. That takes us to item 7B, which is a resolution declaring the city's election to receive state revenues and a resolution certifying the City of Keizer provides 4 or more municipal services. I will open the public hearing. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Wood.
Madam Mayor, City Council, Oregon law requires cities to annually pass a resolution requesting state revenue sharing money. Much of this money comes from liquor sales that's collected at the state level and then distributed back to the cities. We expect to receive approximately $340,000 in state shared revenues during fiscal year 2018-19. So now that the public hearing is open, we recommend that you take any public comments, close the hearing, and then adopt the resolution to request the state shared revenue money.
All right, are there any questions on the staff report? Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 2 questions. Does that include the marijuana tax with the OLCC, or are those 2 separate things?
Those are 2 separate things.
Thank you. And secondly, I'm a little bit confused on population because I read the report in the requirements. So do we meet the requirements for population, and if so, how? Because everything I've read kind of contradicts that. So maybe catch me up on that.
Well, we're below the 100,000, so we're not required to do all of the services that they outline. So we do it as just a common standard that we actually do provide those services. So while technically we don't necessarily need to have that piece, we do it just to be safe.
Okay, so we still qualify to receive the funds, we just
Correct.
aren't required to provide the services?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I thought maybe we had a big population change and I missed it, but I've been exceeding that population for a long time, but that's just my version, so thank you very much.
All right, are there any other questions? So this will be on the first resolution, which is declaring the city's election to receive state revenues. Anything else on that? I'd like to close the public hearing on the city's election to receive state revenues. And is everybody, on both of them, or?
Yeah,
we can do
the
separate?
public hearing is on both those resolutions.
Oh, okay. So does anybody need any, do I need to reopen for certifying the city of Keizer provides 4 or more municipal services?
I don't
Okay,
believe
it
there's
remains
anyone here to
closed.
testify, Madam Mayor, you can check.
That is true. I was looking at the 2 blank sheets. Does anybody want to testify, or I now will reopen? I'm seeing none. Council President Parsons, I got ahead of myself.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2018 declaring the city's election to receive state revenues.
Sorry, second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2018 declaring the city's election to receive state revenues. All in favor, any further discussion? I am in a hurry tonight. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously with 1 absent, Councillor Anderson. Second resolution.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2018 certifying that the city of Keizer provides 4 or more municipal services.
Easy for you to say.
Okay, it's not just me tonight.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2018 certifying that the city of Keizer provides 4 or more municipal services. Any further discussion? And while I will concur that the city does not have more than 100,000 inhabitants, our county does, and that this one is required for cities, in the case of a city located within a county. So is this a city located within a county having more than 100,000 inhabitants? Does the city have more than 100,000 or the county? The way that I'm
I
reading
believe
it,
it's the city.
okay, because the way I read this sentence, it was referring to the county. Either way, we do provide these services.
That's correct.
Well, I've noticed them. I mean, fire protection is a separate district, but based on the evidence just outside the building and over by Claggett Creek, we definitely do street construction. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously with 1 absent. All right, let's see if I can slow my roll here and go to 7C, which is a resolution amending the stormwater utility fee, amending Resolution R 2014-2504, repealing R 2017-2768. Open the public hearing. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Wood.
Madam Mayor, City Council, the Budget Committee has convened, and during that process, we discussed the fiscal year 18-19 budget, which included a 55-cent per month ESU rate increase beginning January 2019 for the stormwater services. This increase will bring in an additional $75,000 in revenues during fiscal year 2018-19. We recommend that you continue with the public hearing, take any public testimony, and then close the public hearing and deliberate this issue, and approve the attached resolution. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions on the staff report? I don't have anybody signed up to testify on this issue. Is anybody here who would like to speak to this issue? All right, seeing none. Close the public hearing. Council President Parsons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2018, amending the stormwater utility fee, amending Resolution R 2014-2504, repealing R 2017-2768.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2018, amending the stormwater utility fee, amending Resolution R 2014-2504, repealing R 2017-2768. Further discussion? Councilor Ryan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Did we have an increase in our water fees? I don't remember discussing that in the budget. I remember discussing the water fees, but I don't remember us having an increase that we would need to pass on. So can you briefly explain why we're increasing?
This is the stormwater, which is separate from the sewer system. So for this fund, the stormwater fund, we did have about a 9% increase that we talked about.
Okay, maybe I'm getting the,
Yeah, but we
the
don't
waters
have
mixed up.
anything from the city of Salem regarding sewer yet, which is the pass-through.
So it will cover our costs, but not exceed them, so that we're not banking money we're
That is
using.
correct,
It's only
yes.
what we need for to raise the citizens.
That is correct.
Thank you
In
for
this
clarifying.
situation, this is primarily to cover a lot of the capital expenditures that we'll be looking at in the future.
Great, thank you very much.
All right, further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously with one absent, as Counselor Anderson. Let's go on then to item 7D, an ordinance setting the water rates 2019, repealing ordinance number 2017-770. And open the public hearing. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Wood.
I feel like a broken record. So, as discussed during the 2018-19 Budget Committee meetings, staff is recommending a 4% increase in the water rates for the system. This will bring in an estimated $58,500 in additional revenue during fiscal year 2018-19. We recommend that you take any public testimony, close the public hearing, deliberate, and adopt the attached resolution. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions on the staff report? And I do not have anybody signed up to testify on this public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to this issue? All right. I'd like to close the public hearing. Council President Parsons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Keizer City Council adopt a bill for an ordinance setting the water rates 2019, repealing ordinance number 2017-770.
770.
I'm sorry. 770.
Okay. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt a bill for an ordinance 2018, setting water rates 2019 and repealing ordinance number 2017-770. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously with one absent.
Certifying lights,
All right,
light district.
7E, which is a resolution certification of lighting district assessments. City Manager.
Public hearing? No, no public hearing. Mr. Wood.
Oh, yes, public hearing
Public hearing.
is now open. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Wood.
Madam Mayor, City Council, as we discussed during the Budget Committee meetings, the 2018-19 street lighting district includes about $406,000 in assessments. Just as a reminder, this is reimbursement to the city for primarily utility costs for the previous year. So for 2018 tax rolls, we estimate $406,027.63 being assessed. This is compared to $408,249.51 that was assessed in the past year. It dropped down slightly because we're starting to see some energy efficiency out there. This is in light of, we've actually added a couple of lighting districts. So people will see their assessments going down slightly this year. With that, if you have any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions on the staff report? All right. I do not have anybody signed up to testify on this issue. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Council President Parsons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2018, certification of the lighting district assessments.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2018, certification of lighting district assessments. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. And one more, that would be 7F, a resolution adopting the fiscal year 18-19 budget, making appropriations, and imposing and categorizing taxes. Like to open public hearing. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Wood.
Madam Mayor, City Council, the Budget Committee met on May 1st and May 3rd. At those meetings, we took public testimony in regards to the manager recommended budget. The Budget Committee did approve a budget at the May 3rd meeting, which is before you tonight. Tonight, you have several options. You can either adopt the budget as presented, you can amend the budget, you can also amend the amount of property taxes, although I would strongly recommend against that. Then the amount or rate of the property taxes does need to be certified and adopted in resolution tonight as well. I recommend that you hold the public hearing, receive any testimony, and then adopt the budget or amend as you see fit, and then also adopt the tax rate.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions on the staff report on the city budget? And before we go any farther, I want to thank all of the members of the Budget Committee who put a lot of time in preparing, as well as them participating in the budget process on May 1st and 3rd. We had people from the community came and also testified regarding certain allocations, and we had a good public process. Also want to extend my appreciation to Tim Wood and your staff for putting together a budget that I think is not only responsible, but also understandable.
And our chair, Kim Freeman.
And our chair, Kim Freeman. Yes. And our vice chair was Kevin Dial, if I remember correctly. So Colonel Dial kept us in line. So it was a good process. So I just want to thank everybody for that. Any further discussion on, looking for the resolution? Let me get that punched up here. It is, okay, you got that? 7F resolution, okay. You got that one? All right. Councilor Ryan.
I think in addition to the appreciation shown to the Budget Committee and all of the hard work that the staff has put in, I want to thank the citizens of Keizer for their support in making this a better process for us, because we have our additional police officers and the needs we have in our parks, and we needed that desperately, and we've been pushing that for a long time, and I don't think it should go without recognition that we have the full support of our community, and I very much appreciate that.
I absolutely concur. The work that went into adopting those fees, the public process that went into that, and here we are almost a year, come July, when we adopted those fees and then started collecting them in November. That was a game changer for Keizer. It was the first budget process that I've been through since I got on committee in 2002, and City Manager, a little bit longer for you, that we didn't have to look under couch cushions for some money to fund our parks and our police services. So thank you, everybody. That was a lot of very good work. Absolutely right. Anything further? Okay. Close the public hearing. And Council President Parsons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will happily ask the City Council to adopt Resolution R 2018, adopting the fiscal year 18-19 budget, making appropriations, and imposing and categorizing taxes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2018, adopting the fiscal year 18-19 budget, making appropriations, and imposing and categorizing taxes. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously with one absent. I know.
Thank you, Tim. Fantastic job this year.
Oh, yes. Bravo, sir.
Thank you.
Let's go on to administrative action then, and the first is the municipal judge report, and we have counselor check-in, and we had two city councilors who spent some time observing our municipal judge in action. So, City Manager, does this go to you, or do I just go straight to Councilors Freeman and Reed?
Well, you're going to come to me, I'm going to go to Shannon, and then it's likely to go right to them, so.
Probably, okay. Then I'll
Shannon?
go to you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Shannon?
I don't necessarily need to add anything, Madam Mayor. If the two counselors want to give the report, I will for the audience, let them know pursuant to my staff report. In 2015, almost exactly 3 years ago, the council changed the municipal judge evaluation processes. So now we do it with the mayor appointing two counselors at the beginning, at the first meeting in June is the way the process is. And then over the course of that fiscal year, those two counselors are to observe the court and come back at this time of year and give their verbal report. So that's the new process as of 3 years ago. So I welcome those folks to go ahead and give their report now.
Okay. Who wants to flip for it?
I'll go. Since I was like right on the deadline, thanks to Tammy going, Kim, you've got one more date. So just conflict of getting in my work schedule. And so mine was short and sweet, one hearing. All was very professional, along with the judge and the court staff too, because they do play a role when people come in along with our police officers. And the person had some, I'll just say, attitude that day. And Judge Myers was very, very professional along with our police officers and making sure that the process was smooth and fair. Judge Myers listened to the gentleman, to all of his comments, and unfortunately it didn't turn out the way that he wanted it to. I'm not sure that it always does, but again, it was very professional from the judge all the way to all of our police officers and staff, so it was great.
Thank you very much. Councilor Reed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was able to observe Judge Myers in all three situations, the hearings, the traffic court, and the attendance court. And it was very interesting, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to observe that. So at the hearing, there were two different cases, one involving a speeding ticket that was contested, and another involving a driving while suspended issue. And both of those I thought were handled very well. Judge Myers was very compassionate. Some people were a little bit difficult, and he managed the talking over and the high feelings very well. I was also impressed with the police officers who showed up to testify, and one of them used video equipment, and I think that speaks highly to how well our police department has their equipment equipped. Yes, that's the word. So on the whole, with all parties involved, I was impressed with how that went. The traffic court was also similarly compassionately handled, and there was nothing surprising really there, but I thought Judge Myers was respectful and did a very good job of listening and explaining. He definitely used this as an educational opportunity, and this was true even with the hearings. He really takes the opportunity to educate people on the law and help them try to avoid further tangles, and so that was great. The attendance court I found was particularly interesting, given my involvement with the high school, but I also figured, well, the day that I attended anyway, most of the issues were middle school related and elementary school related. And that I was not as aware of, and so that was really interesting. And I really was impressed with how well he worked with the district and with the school liaisons, and he really had a good perspective of who had what to offer in terms of resources and support, and that was really impressive. I was particularly impressed with one specific where a kid was court mandated to attend the summer transition program at McNary High School. This was an 8th grader going into ninth grade. And this is a program that offers support. I'm actually teaching that summer school this year, but I loved that was a court-mandated kind of issue for this kid to get him ready for high school. And again, just really an educational thing with parents too. Parents don't always understand that a kid has a sniffle, and that does not constitute staying home. So I appreciated that was also done very well. So that is my report, and I think we have an excellent municipal judge.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions for Councilors Reed or Freeman? So Now I will appoint the counselors who will do observation for this upcoming year, 18-19. And I've asked counselors Ryan and Herrera to do so, and both have agreed. So sometime between now and next year, you too will have a chance to go and listen to the hearings and then bring a report back. And Tammy Harms, our legal assistant, will get the schedule to you. Crack. Amazing.
Like a whip.
As in superhero with cape.
Yes.
She will make sure that you have the hearing schedules, and if you ask her any questions about when things, day, evening, so forth, she'll be more than happy to help you. All right, any further questions or comments? I really appreciate this process because I think it gets us better connected with our municipal court system. Let's go on then to item 8B, which is a request for council direction on updates to the city marijuana ordinances. City manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Brown.
As we have progressed through the regulation of our marijuana retailers in town, we have seen a lot of change, beginning with the establishment of medical marijuana. That was back in 2014. Seems like a decade, but actually it was only 2014.
Wow.
Since that time, recreational marijuana has been approved by the voters. And so we have been dealing with the change in legislation. You have seen, I believe, 4 different amendments to the ordinances over this time, at least, yeah. Well, and more discussion, because the reason we're here tonight is we are looking to kind of straighten things out, mostly because we as staff would like to be able to streamline the process and make some more logical sense out of the process. Just to remind everybody, though, as we establish the regulations that we have in Keizer, some of which are more restrictive than the state. This was done when we established the medical marijuana program. We convened a very robust task force that dealt with the issues. As you, I'm sure, remember that this community did not support the passage of recreational marijuana. It has been pretty common knowledge that our voters here in this community are conservative and were reluctant to have to deal with this issue. So the task force was convened, and it was attended by members of the community across the board. Members of the marijuana industry were there. The Chamber of Commerce was present. Citizens at large were present. We had a lot of attendance and a lot of good dialogue and discussion. The regulations that were established in that, or recommended to you, which you subsequently approved, were strongly supported by that task force. So now we are looking to move forward as things have kind of settled down in the marijuana free-for-all and what's going to happen. Oregon Liquor Control Commission is responsible for regulating the recreational aspect of it. The Oregon Health Authority is still in charge of regulating the medical, and they have slight differences between how they administer their regulations. However, we feel that it would be prudent at this time to move forward in the city of Keizer by having a uniform ordinance instead of the current situation of 2 separate ordinances which have been amended separately and are fairly difficult to follow exactly what the regulations are. We are proposing to you, which you, as you've read the staff report, you have a range of options. You could, as some jurisdictions have done, just simply say, you know what, we're not regulating it, the state's regulating it, and we'll have no local control. You could leave things exactly the way they are. We as staff would ask you not to do that under a couple of these provisions that are in the ordinances. So, what we are basically recommending to you is that we keep the standards that were established from the beginning, that we have additional spacing requirements. For example, from schools, we have a minimum of 1,500 feet. We've included prohibiting them from public property, excluding right-of-way, within 1,000 feet. And we still maintain a 1,000-foot spacing between the establishments. We currently have 4 retail operations in the city of Keizer. There are several locations still available for retail establishments to be located. So we have not maxed out where these establishments could be. So our recommendation to you, and we're asking for your direction to know how you want to proceed from here on, because we don't want to go through all the effort of developing an ordinance and then find out that you have some different directions. So our recommendation to you is that we keep most of the standards as they exist. One of the things we don't feel that we would feel that to not regulate marijuana establishments would not be consistent with the effort and the work that you have already done. We also feel it's important to maintain a local license because there are some standards that we implement that the state is not going to care about. And so without a local license, then we do not have that ability to regulate it to that level or to inspect. So we believe that we would like to combine both the recreational and the medical aspects into one ordinance. All of our establishments have converted to recreational marijuana, which gives them the ability to sell medical. But this is not peculiar to Keizer. This is pretty universal across the state. In fact, statewide, there are only 11 medical marijuana establishments that are solely medical. So we believe that a unified ordinance would be appropriate. We would like to keep most of the same standards that were adopted, but we would like to use the state background check as our state, that we would like to use that as the basis for the background investigation into individual workers. We find that to do a local background check is simply duplicative or duplicative, depending on what part of the country you're from. We don't feel that it is a wise use of our local resources because that background is being done. Now, there is a potential for the possibility for a medical worker to go through the Oregon Health Authority. They do not do the same kind of background check as the Oregon Liquor Control Commission. However, we believe that the overall trend is not to have medical establishments. So we believe this is more of an academic kind of concern, and we don't believe that that is much of a risk for how we administer this program. So, let's see. This recommendation to you is basically keeping the status quo from the standards that were established. We are not suggesting to you that we establish different or new regulations. However, that's certainly up to your prerogative. So, with that, I believe that has covered most of the issues. So I would be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Before we dive into this, I just want to get a sense of where the council's at. Looking at our 4 basic options of drop-all regulations, keep some, keep the standards but eliminate the local licensing requirement, or keep all current regulations and no changes. Want to get a sense of where we're at so we can then have a conversation targeted that direction. That was the A, B, C, and D options on the second page of the staff report, 217 of the packet. Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's important to recognize that, Nate, I did hear you say acknowledge how much work went into this for several years, and before I was even on council. So I want to honor that work and continue to uphold it. I think we've done some great work with that. And so I definitely am not into making a lot of changes. Personally, I just am curious if maybe Chief Teague has an opinion or would like to weigh in before we get into full discussion. Maybe you have an idea or suggestion or concern?
I have no idea, opinion, suggestion, or concern.
Okay, thank you very much for playing.
All right.
That's all I have. Thank you.
So just to kind of get a pulse on this, I'm not hearing drop everything. So I'm not hearing A. I'm not hearing don't make any changes. I'm hearing that there are probably some things we want to talk about. So that puts us between B and C. Let's look at some specifics within our current city standards that we would like the staff to come back with some language on. Is that the direction of the conversation?
I would say C.
Ish? Okay. Well, whether we want to do away with licensing or there was discussion around background checks.
Basically making the government process more efficient, but keeping the standards is what I...
Yeah, that's really the crux of where we're
Okay.
wanting to head is roll two ordinances into one, so it's more efficient and easier to go through, and then basically eliminate things that we're having to do that are already being done elsewhere because they're simply chewing up our time and aren't giving us any better results, information, or providing any better service to the citizens. So it's really all about streamlining.
Councilor Herrera?
Yeah, I do get that, and I understand that portion. And I also understand the OLCC background checks are probably the way to go over local. Is that correct? But what I'd like to see is, is there other communities that have the medical and recreation all in one ordinance? And have you studied how that's worked? Pros and cons, sort of? Seems to me like makes sense to have one, and on the surface, but if you talk to anybody that has has had issues because of having them both in one?
I am not aware that...
As far as, Oregon Health and OLCC.
There is. And there is a lot of conjecture as to what may be in the future with the legislature and whether it will all fall under one control or not. I personally think that would make a lot of sense from the state's perspective. So the thing about marijuana ordinances, they are all across the board. Different jurisdictions have different approaches. I have not heard anybody that has had a problem. And quite honestly, we will still acknowledge the fact that there are two separate, in this combined ordinance, we will still acknowledge the fact that there are two separate issues and wait for the day when, again, that changes in the future.
And it will.
And it will, I'm sure. Well, because it is at least settling down, though, and the rate of change has slacked off considerably. So that much we take encouragement from. But no, we have not heard of we don't anticipate there being any problem and have not heard of any other community that would have a problem.
Thank you.
Councilor Freeman?
I just want to say, Nate, you and I had this conversation a long time ago, and I couldn't remember what we had, and then reading it jogged my mind. So it was additional background checks, and I've heard from some of our providers locally that this has cost them good employees because the background check takes a few weeks, and so some people can't wait a few weeks for a job, for a clear background check, and so we're potentially hurting our business partners in the community. So if it's already being done, let's not do it again. So I just appreciate that is in here for this time. And again, it will help our business partners. So
We actually had the situation where we had one that was sending 3 or 4 every other day because by the time they got through the process, they had been hired elsewhere, and So it was loading up staff with this process, and come to find out it was for naught anyway, so.
On this, or Counselor Reed?
No,
So-
a different issue.
Okay, Counselor Reed?
Well, are we ready for discussion yet? Because what I have to say would fall under the discussion.
We are discussing.
Okay. All right. While I definitely support the streamlining of the government end of it, the logistics of it, I have been talking to quite a few people at the high school, both students and Dan Borison, who is the assistant principal in charge of discipline, and Officer Zavala, who is our resource officer. And it is of great concern at McNary the availability of marijuana. And I understand that these are two different things. You know, the one, the streamlining of the process versus the kind of in general, the effect it's having on our community. So I understand that. But I just wanted to share some of the issues. Both Officer Zavala and Mr. Borison have said that repeatedly, when kids get busted for marijuana, and busted is a term that I'll discuss in a minute, but anyway, kids can generally, with a couple of texts, have possession of marijuana within a half hour to an hour. It's that easy. And the vials that they're confiscating are from the dispensaries. They are not little baggyfuls, you know, Ziploc bags full of marijuana that's, you know, they got from wherever. And I'm not suggesting that the dispensaries are selling to minors, but I am saying that it is very easy for minors to get as a result of that. Furthermore, we're seeing, okay, so back to getting busted for marijuana. What that means anymore with the passage of recreational marijuana is that students get cited, minor in possession, which is, I am given to understand, the equivalent of failing to yield at a stop sign. It is a violation. It is not a criminal offense anymore. And so both our SRO and our school discipline have very little recourse. They get essentially a ticket and go through the process of maybe peer court, which would involve some kind of online intervention similar to traffic school. And so this is really causing a pervasiveness of marijuana in the high schools. And it is definitely proving to be a gateway drug. Both Mr. Borison and Officer Zavala shared with me that as kids get confident using marijuana, they very quickly escalate to other far more dangerous drugs. And the family attitudes are also of concern, it being a legal substance. It is a drug nevertheless, and families are very cavalier about, yeah, I know my kid's doing marijuana, and so what, it's legal. And it's depending on what studies you look at, but a lot of studies indicate that marijuana really does interfere with kids' brain development. And I think everybody who voted for this, passed this based on the fact that this was going to be available to adults. But the reality is it is very easily trickling down to the high schools, and excuse me, and no doubt the middle schools as well. And so this is, I think, of real concern. The education piece isn't as prevalent as something as alcohol. Kids don't know how dangerous it can be. Parents often don't know how dangerous it can be. They don't realize. Mr. Borison said that, you know, he is looking at a kid's report card, you know, A's, B's, maybe a C or two the first semester, and then C's, D's, and 3 or 4 F's the second semester, and he says he can pinpoint exactly when that kid started using. So even regardless of the causation, there is a very strong correlation there with marijuana and the performance of our kids. So I would eventually like to see, and I'm not prepared to do this tonight at all, it's not a conversation that needs to happen tonight, but I would really like to see in future that our regulations of our marijuana industry get even more strict so that we can stop this, or at least make it more difficult. I understand that kids will do what kids will do, but we should not make it as easy as we are making it. And I would hope that the dispensaries in town would definitely support that. I would think that, because of their dependence on the Liquor Licensing Committee, OLCC, that it would be in their best interest too to keep this out of the hands of minors as much as possible too. So anyway, that is my 2 cents. I felt like I really needed to offer that perspective because it is really bad for our kids and it's bad for families. Thank you.
All right, no, thank you very much for sharing that. So my question is, with the OLCC regulating the recreational marijuana, there are educational outreaches regarding alcohol and tobacco, and some that have been more or sometimes less effective on vaping. That's another one that kids have this misguided sense that somehow that's safe or better than actually lighting up a cigarette. Where are we on educational materials from the OLCC regarding legalized marijuana, if anywhere? Does anybody know?
Or the enforcement of not selling to minors is another question that came up when I was talking to Officer Zavala. We know that it happens at the liquor stores. Is that happening at the dispensaries as well? It's also another question.
Jen?
I can answer that last one from Counselor Reed. It's anecdotal, I can tell you that much, in terms of selling to the minors. My guess is, and it is just a guess, the situation you're describing is a situation of not the stores selling to minors. That has occurred. I'm not saying it doesn't occur, but OLCC, in my impression at least, is taking that issue pretty seriously. So that's what I would say. And if I may, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
going back a little ways, I don't think it changes the discussion. I just want to make sure folks understand. With regard to the background checks, it is not, the issue on the background checks is that it does change the level somewhat, and it's more complicated than this, but generally speaking, the background check level of disqualification at the state is any drug-related felony, whereas generally for the city, it's any felony and any drug-related misdemeanor. So you do have that difference there. I wanted to make sure folks didn't miss that point. Most of the cases that I've only been involved in a couple where there's been a question about the background check and whether or not it complied or not, and most of those involved drug-related misdemeanors that were not clear that there was a conviction or not, which it's why they already got their card from the state, is because it was a misdemeanor. So the issue was whether they qualified under ours. But I just didn't want that point to be missed.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. So one of the issues going forward for our community is, I'm aware that the OLCC has done work, the lottery does work on addiction, which I find ironic, and, sorry. But informing people in our community, for example, the misguided idea that vaping is somehow a safe alternative to cigarettes, which is nuts. And medically unfounded. Again, marijuana, well, it's legal now, so it must be safe. That's some misconceptions out there. Not just among young people, there's among some adults as well. So it sounds like there's, and maybe this is a conversation that it would be separate, but one that we need to have as a community is how do we get the word out and work on the education side on the dangers of all of these addictive substances. Yes, Councilor Reed.
Mr. Johnson, I was wondering if the providing minors with marijuana, whatever the legal term of that is that a misdemeanor or is that a felony?
I do not know. I don't know if John knows the answer to that question or not. I would assume it'd be a misdemeanor.
Well, it depends how it's provided. If you have a child selling it to another child on school grounds, it'd be a felony.
Yeah.
Well, these were not,
Other than schools.
okay, so that might show up later as they apply to work at dispensaries or whatever under our ordinance. Because if it's on their record, that, I mean.
Oh, I see. So you're making the connection with regard to the.
Yes,
Well, remember though, that would only be an employee or owner or operator of the facility. So for example, if the retailer is the term we use, if the marijuana retailer sold to a legal adult to buy it, and that adult then left the facility and sold it to a kid at school, there would be no trace back to that. I mean, the store had done nothing wrong, is what I'm getting at. They can't control who that person might sell to. So, and the sale, I think John's correct, depends on where they sell it, right? And to whom, right?
Okay, so if we took away our requirement, because our city requirement that you can't have any drug-related misdemeanors, that would include providing marijuana to minors.
But that wouldn't change the licensing at all.
Yeah, no, but as far as the employee was concerned,
If the
that
employee,
would show up.
oh, I'm sorry, if the employee sold directly to a
Yes.
minor at the store, is that what you're getting at?
Well, just in general, if a prospective
okay.
employee
Right,
had
right.
been
So
involved with that.
I apologize. So your scenario would be one in which an employee of the retailer off property sold to a minor.
At some point,
At
and
some
got cited
point,
for it, yes.
and was caught and was convicted, then under our, and that was a misdemeanor, I mean, so you have a little bit of a
So that would be under
stretched
our
scenario.
city one, but not
You're-
under the state.
Right.
Okay,
And
thank
that, that's a pretty narrow circumstance.
Yeah.
But yes, in that circumstance, that might make a difference, I suppose.
Thank you.
All right. So, sounds like the educational piece is something that we will want to pursue going forward. The issue on the table right now, though, is bringing together the medical and the recreational marijuana ordinances to be more streamlined. Is there consensus that we would like staff to bring back a recommendation on language regarding that combination? Okay, so why don't we move forward with that? Regarding the issue around the background checks, to have in the new ordinance that'd be based on the state OLCC background checks rather than conduct ours as well. So by consensus, we would like to see that, what that language looks like. Is there, and I'm looking at, there was also something here, a recommendation on the records maintenance. Mr. Brown?
So specifically, what we are suggesting,
This was, just for everybody's reference, this is item number 14 in the current city standards,
so if you'll look at the
and 13.
third paragraph above the recommendation on page 2 of the staff report. So basically, there are some things that we're recommending that we not try to regulate and keep control of here, and that would be currently when this was established under medical, we weren't sure how the accounting process was going to be. Currently, the state has established, they have ID tags, they have a pretty robust accounting process. So we have never, every time I take one of these to our finance director, we chuckle a little bit because neither one of us know exactly what does that really mean. And we do not have the ability to process the amount of information that the state processes with the ID tags and that sort of thing. So we are suggesting that we not have a local accounting system. We are suggesting that we don't have a unique local standard for convictions, which may be what Councilor Reed is concerned about. We also required, when we originally established this, we required locally that they would maintain at least 3 years of all transactions, all sales, all purchases, all transactions. That simply is unwieldy for us at a local level. And we also included some limitation on signage. And I championed that when we first established it over the objections of the city attorney, because this is a local license. Nonetheless, it still runs afoul of our current signage because we're regulating content of a sign. And so we're suggesting that we not have unique standards that apply only to marijuana businesses.
I know.
I'm shutting up. So we're suggesting those things is what we address in our changes.
Okay, so I'm going to take these kind of in groupings. Talking about the items 13 and 14th in the current city standards list regarding must maintain an accounting system satisfactory to the city and must maintain 3 years of records for all sales, purchases, tax returns, employees, et cetera. These are often handled through their filings with the state and federal revenue. Is everybody comfortable with those being deleted from the updated ordinance? Yes. Okay, by consensus, go ahead and leave that out of the update. The other one was on number 10 was the signage shall identify premises and not include logos or illustrations. So we're going to have to bring that into alignment with the rulings from the Supreme Court in terms of signage. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
I know. Yes.
Okay, so the camel comes to mind as far as illustrations and how that was used as an advertising campaign for cigarettes way back when. And I was wondering if that would possibly come under that purview. You know, so illustrations that don't appeal purposefully to minors.
That was the original intent of that provision. Since that was established, however, the Supreme Court has weighed in on content and regulating content of signs. Oregon makes it even more difficult because we have no distinction between commercial speech and private speech. So
We can only do what we can do. Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
I know. Councilor Ryan.
Thank you. So is it my understanding that you're saying that based on a bigger law, we cannot enforce a logo on a signage in Keizer?
Well, it's a risk assessment, to be honest with you. You know, the world does not comply with every decision that comes from on high. This, however, I'm not sure that the regulation, I'm not sure any risk associated with this is really, because we have a sign program that is in place, and it is pretty responsible in limiting the amount of signage so that we're not, you know, plastering buildings with anything, let alone these businesses would have no more advantage or disadvantage than any other business. I can't believe that they would waste their precious sign space on something that would be frivolous. So that's why I'm making this recommendation to you is I don't think that our risk with letting this go is that great compared to the blatant regulation of content, which is very easy to spot. Particularly you add in, I think the risk goes up when you deal with an industry that is so well funded, and it would just take one person to get a bee in their bonnet about something to challenge us in court, and we would certainly lose.
So may I ask, and this is if the council agrees, that maybe we table that one sentence until we need to address it? You know, I'm not sure if we need to be proactive at this point with that and just leave that the way it is until there's maybe a written concern or an issue that we need to sit down and discuss it. Because that's something I felt was pretty strongly heard from the community. So it would be my opinion to leave that out at this point. Not forever, but until maybe we need to. But of course, it's council's option if they disagree. So.
Well, the Supreme Court was really clear on regulating content, and we are going through rewriting our sign code now to bring it into compliance. This would be knowing that we're going to have to go back and fix it because it is content-based. So I think we would be putting ourselves in a position of,
It's the definition of negligence.
Liable.
Yeah, we would be neglecting to take care of a known conflict with federal, with the Supreme Court ruling. But I think there's ways that we have done within our sign code, and even with the revisions that are coming, for things to be appropriate and not overstated and so forth. I don't think we're going to see, and I believe Nate's right, that the shops are not going to be using a lot of money on this when it may not have a great return on investment.
I hope
What-
you're right, but I definitely don't have a lot of faith in that. So just for the record, I wish it was different, but I do understand the legality.
So
Mr. Brown?
you were first.
Okay, you want to flip for it?
Well, this isn't really much of an answer, but for Counselor Ryan and the rest of the council, as the mayor pointed out, we are going to be looking at some revisions to the sign code anyway, totally separate from this issue. And Nate and I will put our heads together and see if there might be some sort of compromise situation that might maybe address these concerns and still keep us, our risk level low. So that's what we'll be looking at.
So if I might throw out, what I was going to suggest is there are perhaps other ways to address signage for the type of business, not content, but perhaps the type of business versus the amount of signage that they would be allowed. That may be something that we could do. So if it is a big concern, I think that we will, as Mr. Johnson was pointing out, I think we'll put our heads together and give you some options, how you might, if that's generally something that the council would like to address.
Well, and I would just like to reiterate on that. I shouldn't say reiterate, maybe point out, I have no desire to take away the rights of the signs, and I know that's a big issue, and I'm not trying to change their rights or make it less for them. I think if I remember correctly, it was a conversation about the youth and community and the logo usage. It wasn't necessarily signage, and so I just want to point out that, I get that it's legal, it's been here, and, it kind of points to Councilor Reed's position of, it is so easily available, and kids do recognize it, I get it. So it's, it's kind of a double-edged sword, so thank you for,
But
Fine, I
perhaps
guess.
to follow up on that, we also, there are some regulations surrounding liquor stores and cigarette sales and so forth, and those are targeted to specific industries and so forth. So would those not also be regulated under the same types of constraints?
Yeah. Unfortunately, if I understand how the Oregon Liquor Control Commission works, those stores are either owned or directly contracted through the state. So when you buy liquor, you're buying it kind of from the state in a sense, which means those stores have direct contracts with the state. And in those contracts, because it's a contractual relationship, the state can control things that you can't do as a regular regulation. And that's why you would see a difference between that. If OLCC controlled the marijuana and sold the marijuana to the marijuana stores and under a contract, then OLCC could control that signage through that contract, but that's not the way it works. So I think that's the reason you would see that control there, whereas we don't have the same control here.
Okay.
So we'll put our heads together and just, you can discuss the options that you would have on signage.
So going back to the other similar addictive materials, there are also warning signs and so forth that accompany those as well. Is there signage that can be placed on premises that we would require or that OLCC requires regarding, minors, women who are expecting children, et cetera, the health warning signs, and make sure. Okay, they're all posted, so make sure that that is something that is posted responsibly, like the responsible vendors do. So I don't know if we need that in there to make sure that's stated and not assumed. Is that the state required already? Okay.
But you would have the option to include additional requirements or warnings.
Okay. So maybe that be, so if the state's doing that, but if there's an opportunity for us to help encourage that messaging, that might be an option as well.
So we could gather the information as to what the state is requiring, and you could evaluate whether you think that is sufficient.
Yes. That sounds like a good plan. Okay. Help educate the consumer, but also the community. Okay, so we have some direction on that one. Were there other ones that needed addressing? I think the rest of them, were there any other of the current city standards that you wanted to see eliminated, modified, or, well, those are the two options, eliminated or modified. So we have addressed numbers 10, 10, 12, 13, 14, and that's it. The rest of them we're all leaving in place. Are you all good with that? Anything else, sir?
Well, I just wanted to point out, this is not the final, this is not the final take. And you will have lots of opportunities to have full discussion, and as an ordinance is prepared and is before you, and this is not to say that perhaps staff might have some question. The booby trap one comes to mind. That's regulated by the state. That is language that is mirrored by the statutes. But again, this gives us good direction, I believe, to come back to you with a prepared ordinance that would unify and address these standards.
All right. We appreciate the comprehensive options that you've given us, and I know this has been an ongoing effort. Maybe we should invite back the former mayor, Dennis Coho, because every time we had one of these, he goes, but we already did this. It's like, yes, sir, but guess what? It changed again. So anyway, but I appreciate the work that went into that. All right. That takes us through our administrative action. Let's go to the consent calendar. Council President Parsons, do you want to read the items on tonight's consent calendar?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We have 4 items on the consent calendar tonight. The first is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase a 2018 BMW R1200 RTW-B motorcycle for the police department. B, resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase 3 Ford K8A AWS police interceptor utility vehicles for the police department. C is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase a 2019 Ford F-550 for Public Works Department and authorizing disposition of surplus property. And D is approval of the May 21st, 2018 City Council regular session minutes.
Thank you very much. Are there any polls? Council President Parsons?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move approval of the consent calendar, items A through D.
Second.
The consent calendar has been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously with 1 absence. Let's go to the council liaison reports. And, well, you said I don't start at that end often enough, so let's go ahead and start with
It was
Councilor
Kim
Ryan.
that said that.
Yeah.
No. Thank you, Madam. Do you want to go first? Go first. Go first. I'll go after you.
No, you go.
See, you're not even ready.
There you go.
I'm
Councilor
short and
Ryan.
sweet. Okay, I'm short and sweet. Ladies and gentlemen, let's see. Just, let's see. I have done attending a lot of fundraisers lately. I won't go into detail, but I will tell you that one of the things I did that I was really excited about as a board member for CASA, which is our court-appointed special advocate program for our children, located right here in Keizer for Marion County. We've swore in 15 new volunteers for the kids, and that is something that's really, really highly, really, I'm sorry, Laura, I must drive you crazy. That is something that's highly important to our community, and we need more volunteers. If anybody knows of anybody be interested, it's a wonderful opportunity to serve our kids. Our goal is to have every child in Marion County have a CASA court-appointed advocate. It's desperately needed, so please, and it's not a lot of time, so please consider that. And then I know registration's open for Blast Camp, so pretty excited about that. I haven't heard it's closed. Is it closed?
I'm sure it is.
We'll get an update.
Oh, okay. So wanted to say that. And then just for those people who struggle with their calendars like I do, can we have a reminder of the date for National Night Out so that I have it correctly?
It's usually the first Tuesday of the month.
Is it?
First Tuesday of August.
Okay. So that's important to have on your calendars. And that's all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much.
All right. Councilor Freeman.
Well, Councilor Herrera and I had the opportunity to attend the McNary Booster Auction on Saturday night at Libish Gardens, and it was my first time attending the event, and it was great, a lovely venue, and food is amazing by Scott White and Kaylin. So it was fabulous, and hopefully they raised a lot of money. I don't know if you heard how much they raised or not, but
A lot.
but it was great. So thank you to, everyone that donated prizes, because these events aren't successful without the community and lots of people stepping up and donating some great packages. I would just like to echo the comments earlier on the city and all the citizens and CERT, our community response team for water, and Sunday's paper had a nice editorial thank you to the city as well. And so just
Very
thank you
nice.
for everyone who opened their homes to complete strangers that needed help. So I think that's awesome. We do have the Planning Commission on June 13th at 6 p.m. This week on Thursday, we'll be attending the Personnel Policy Committee meeting here at 6. And then looks like I'm on tap with a few others on June 14th for the Marion County Commissioner Breakfast. And we still have some openings on committees throughout the city. These applications are due by Wednesday, June 13th, to be considered for the June 21st Volunteer Coordinating Committee, which meets at 6 p.m. So we have one vacancy on the Keizer Points of Interest Committee. There's one vacancy for the Festival Advisory Board. Public Art Commission doesn't have how many or potential openings there.
June 21st, he said.
Community Services and Housing Commission, I believe that one is still open if someone did apply for that. It's still on my list,
Yeah.
so. And then, as always, we have youth committee liaison. So if you know of any youth, and I know Councilor Reed is actively working on that as well. And just a reminder, for the summer, the West Keizer Neighborhood Association meeting does not meet until September. So, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Things are winding down at McNary, so that's exciting. I was a part of the Senior Awards Night last Thursday, on the 29th, which was Tuesday, and that was just really impressive. The quality of the kids and the number of valedictorians and salutatorians we have, just really impressive. Big thank you to our parents and all of those and coaches and all of those who support our kids. They're really an impressive bunch, and that is definitely a village that takes to make that happen. Orchestra concert was tonight. It's probably over by now. And the final choir concert is tomorrow at 7 o'clock. On Thursday, we have the Southeast Keizer Neighborhood Association, and that is at 6:30 here at City Hall. And then graduation is Friday, so it is at 2 p.m. this time, which is earlier than we've ever had it. So it's 2 p.m. at the Pavilion. McNary is letting out early as a result of that. They will be finished at noon, so if you see a whole lot more kids running around than usual, that is why. And that will allow both teachers and kids to get to graduation as much as possible. And there's also a Stormwater Advisory Committee meeting on the 14th at 4 p.m. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, and congratulations to all of our graduates. Council President Parsons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last Thursday, I had the pleasure of going to the final Gubser School or Association meeting at Gubser School till September. They had the speaker was Anne Marie Storms, who's the fire marshal. And so she just talked about, safety and what fire marshals look for and, and things like that, how to be prepared, for disasters like the water thing, that kind of stuff. So, so that was fun, but we don't have another one now till September, so we'll see what he's doing in September. Then upcoming, I have personal policy on Thursday. Next week, I have Marion County Commissioners Breakfast with Councilor Freeman and Mayor Clark, and then we have traffic safety bikeways that evening. And then that's all I have. So, and I want to congratulate the class of 2018.
Right.
Thank you.
You're here. Councilor Herrera.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, thank you, Councilor Parsons and Councilor Reed for helping me.
Pull your microphone up
It's
just
on.
a little bit. Pull it up a little bit.
I'm pretty loud.
No,
I'm
can
not as
you
loud as her,
pull it
but I'm
up?
loud.
Can you pull it up a little bit?
There you go.
Can you hear me? Testing, 1, 2?
There you go.
Yeah, but anyway, thank you for helping me out with my bad foot, and I apologize for my tire. I couldn't put on my clothes today, so. Yeah, this is winding down, like she said about the McNary over at Kennedy. I'm kind of sentimental. It's my last year over there, and we had our last Cal Club meeting, our leadership meeting. I will probably still be involved if we don't start that at another school. But we also took them down to CTEC, Technical Education Center. And then we also, one more week, and we will be going to have our field day, which I'm a big part of. It's going to be fun. We had the Walk of Honor where the students come back to the grade school, and that is just a wonderful thing. And they go all the way out for those kids all come on the hallway, and they all come in with their, and I will be attending the mock one, or the practice one, right, on 7th. And that's going to be great. Also, I did attend the fundraiser, which they did pretty good. They would, by the way, my table won the gold. I don't know how we did this. I don't know how we did this, but we won the gold thing. Anyway, also, the last thing was, on Friday, I will not be at the graduation. I will be at the graduation over at Independence on Friday. I will be speaking to the graduates of Central High School, which is a big honor because I think it's a good opportunity to communicate some of the things. And a lot of the things that I've talked about is getting involved in your community and being, the same old thing. But I'm actually really nice there, Chris, on that one. Also, by the way, June 14th, for all you history people, what's June 14th? Anybody know?
Flag Day.
Very good. Oh, I'm so proud of you guys. Nobody at school knew.
What?
Flag Day, June 14th, yeah. Which was a big deal. I actually studied that in 1777, the Second Congressional Continental Congress put that together, and it's kind of cool. But anyway, we should be proud of that one. Pardon?
But you weren't there.
I was not there, no. And last but not least, congratulations to the graduates. I have a very good relationship with a lot of seniors that were my mentors. And boy, I wish I was rich. I'd buy them all something because they all deserve it. And I'm going to miss not being at the graduation there, although I will have a good time over here with, I believe your daughter is graduating. All right, so that should be good. Thank you.
Awesome.
That's all I got.
All right, thank you so much. Just a couple of things to add. Let's see, Keizer United, I want to do an appointment here. Councilor Ryan has been serving as liaison to Keizer United and has a schedule conflict. And Councilor Herrera has agreed to become the city liaison to Keizer United. And we have also requested that, since they are updating their bylaws, that they will send those to us. So we have those on the record, as we like to do with all of the outside appointments. We have copies of bylaws and other information on the organizations. So thank you for your service, Councilor Ryan, and thank you for your willingness to serve for Keizer United, which is evolving into a very dynamic, reformulated, and phenomenal community partnership program. Just a couple of things. On the 22nd, I attended SCATS, which is the Salem-Keizer Area Transportation Study. The majority of the debate was around language that the Salem City Council passed and came and told us that we should adopt into our regional transportation system plan. And we had a long conversation about, thank you for making that suggestion. And we would take it under advisement. So anyway, that's going to be circulating for a little while, because if we don't come to consensus with SCATS, then we have to bring everything back to our individual organizations. And since the 1980s, the participating jurisdictions on SCATS have been able to work through difficult conversations and reach consensus. And I would hope that the Salem Council would understand that this is a consensus-driven process and not one where they can pass a resolution to have any sort of force on the other jurisdictions that they're supposed to be partnering with. So stay tuned. It was my pleasure to attend the Keizer Points of Interest for Councilor Herrera, and we had a wonderful conversation about the projects that are ongoing. And I also suggested that they contact the Claggett Creek Watershed Council about a story map that is now being developed regarding the Claggett Creek watershed. I thought they might find that project very interesting, along with all of the other great projects that they're doing. The SEDCOR, which is the Strategic Economic Development Corporation, that board met on the 30th. I was approved for another 3-year term, and there was a great update on jobs, business retention, and expansion, and particularly the Amazon development out at Mill Creek. But the corporate center there is going to see other development as well. There are thousands of jobs coming, so it's great for our community and our business environment. Coming up tomorrow, the Council of Governments for the Mid-Willamette Valley, we have our Budget Committee meeting and Executive Committee. Thursday is MWACT, which is the Mid-Willamette Area Commission on Transportation, always moving. And then Thursday night is Personnel. On next Monday, there's going to be a discussion down at the Salem Convention Center about air service in Salem. So if you haven't seen that announcement, I will forward that to you, and there's going to be a discussion with business leaders throughout our region about what that would look like and what it would take to get passenger service. There's a great deal of interest in taking another look at the models and what we could do here.
Is that in the evening, Kathy?
It is not, it's during the day.
During the day?
So I will send that, the time and date to you. Let's see, on the 12th is the League of Oregon Cities and Association of Oregon Counties Affordable Housing Workshop. It is during the day, unfortunately, I can't make it. But Ali Treichel, who is our Mid-Willamette Homeless Initiative project manager or coordinator, will be there. You know about this one. Do you have people from your agency there as well, or?
We do have our, Kim Travis, our housing integrator, will be one of the speakers and coordinator. I'm unfortunately out of town, so I will not be there.
Okay.
So.
And this is a growing partnership between the League of Oregon Cities and the Association of Oregon Counties to collaborate on addressing affordable housing issues and policies across the state. And this is a really great step forward for cities and counties to bring their collective wisdom and also concerns together and find solutions. On the 13th, volcanoes are back. The boys of summer are coming back to Keizer, and we just heard from our ball player who stayed with us last summer. He's coming back. So Alejandro De La Rosa, your room's ready. Play ball. So I'll be throwing out the first pitch on the 13th, and welcome back our volcanoes. We're looking forward to a great summer. And thanks to my dog who loves to play ball, I'm all warmed up for that throw. Let's see, on the 14th, Commissioner's Breakfast, and then I've got League Board on the 15th, and that is all I've got there. So let's go on then to, where did I put my, there it is, I found it. How about other business? This time is provided to allow the mayor, city council members, or staff an opportunity to bring new or old matters before the council that are not on tonight's agenda. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tracy? Tim? Michelle? No? Chief?
The police department's blast camp is July 17th through 20. We're taking 250 campers. We opened registration this morning at 9 o'clock and had all 250 registered before 5. So it's remarkably welcome and successful camp. Wish we could hold more than one, but it's just logistically not possible.
Mr. Lawyer?
Just a couple things, Chris, thank you. The Dearborn Bridge project's moving ahead at very good speed. Contractor's a bit ahead of schedule. The existing, or the old bridge, it's not existing anymore because it's gone. They removed the pilings and the abutments this morning or today. And so there is no more bridge left there. Next move is for the contractor to get some excavating done and then do the pile driving, do the forming for the new abutments. They've already poured some curbs in areas that don't receive fill. Storm drain work's pretty much complete. They're really, really flying through this at this point. So I have hopes that they'll be done ahead of schedule. The road will be open sooner than we planned, but there's still a lot of work to do, so I'm not ready to say that yet. Meadows Play Structure Project, contractors on site. The old play structure's gone. The site work's begun, getting ready for the new structure. That should be delivered tomorrow along with the fall protection servicing materials. About 24 pallets of rubber stuff to be delivered along with the play structure. So that project's moving ahead nice. And also we have 2 other projects out for bid right now. Screen wall and open space improvements for the Area B property near the theater are out for bid. Bids are due June 19th. That's it.
Very good. Nate?
So I have to apologize to the council for the late notice, as I found out about this last week, and I did not give you a notice. But on the Planning Commission date of the 13th, which is 10 days, 10, 9, 9 days. Our consultant on the cost of growth study is planning to be here and would like to have small group discussions. And I really, really would like all of the council to be there for that. There will be no decision, there will be no deliberation, there will be simply discussions. But this is basically the summation of the research that they have been doing and the information. And basically they want to have small group discussions about the information that they have. So it is here at 6 o'clock on the 13th. And we are asking the Planning Commission to also make sure they are participating in that discussion as well. We're also going to send it out to blast it out to the community, to invite community members to be there as well. So I recognize how busy your schedule is and how late this is to get that on your calendar. However, it is a significant step forward in this discussion, and we really need your input in that process. So if you would please put that on your calendar, I would very much appreciate it.
Well, and I was just asking the city manager regarding notice and versus work session versus not having to notice this.
Yeah, so this is not, we're not calling it a work session. You're not giving specific direction. This is more of a chance for them to present the information that they've gathered. And so it will be an open meeting. Obviously, the public will be able to attend, and we're advertising it. However, it doesn't really fall under your official duties.
Okay.
Although the reason you're there is because you are important.
We like to think so once in a while.
Yeah, there's not the consultant, again, this is the approach they have used throughout the state, and they did not seem to have any concerns, so, okay, I guess not. Anyway, that's the approach we're taking.
Shannon?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. I do have a note of, I read a couple of written communications earlier, which were thank yous, and then we also got one thanking us for the warm welcome to the Keizer community at the grand opening at Cafe Yum, and they're looking forward to being part of the Keizer family and appreciate the support and love that they've experienced as a new member of our business community. And it's from Sean and Anna Zorn. So I want to let you know about that. And there we go. Keep moving the stuff around here. Agenda input, we don't have a topic scheduled for next Monday, but we'll probably look at some work sessions this summer on issues that we may want to address, but nothing coming up for the 11th, correct? So we will go ahead and cancel that one. We will meet on the 18th of June, 7 p.m. in regular session, and then July 2nd, 7 p.m. in regular session. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
No.
Councilor Herrera.
I forgot to mention, last week our local pitcher, Austin Bibbins-Dirks, was in town in Seattle, pitched against All-Star Felix Hernandez, and the Rangers beat the Seattle Mariners. And it was nice because a lot of, I wish I could have gone, but a lot of my friends went down there. His mom and dad, of course, went down there, McDonald and Cheryl. And it was nice to see the pictures of those guys up there seeing Austin. And it's just so surreal to remember him right here in the league and watch him in the big stadiums. It's just amazing. But we're all proud of him. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Then it is 8:50 and we are adjourned.